So hi everyone, my name is Christian and I'm part of the marketing team here at Qt. Thank you very much for being here and welcome to today's webinar, which is entitled How to Master Reporting in Qt. A note on today's webinar, it will be recorded so you can go back and review, or you can share it with one of your colleagues who might not have been able to participate today. In terms of if you have any questions, we do have 10 minutes set aside with our experts to review any of your questions. You'll see on the Zoom bar, there should be a Q&A option for you, and you can feel free to enter your questions in there at any time, and we'll do our best to address them in the dedicated Q&A section at the end. So with that said, let's get started on today's presentation and have our panelists introduce themselves. Martin?
Yeah, thank you, Christian. I'm Martin Pronk. I'm CTO at Qt and is here to show some of the reporting features we have and answer the questions in the Q&A section. Garey?
Thank you, Martin. And yes, hello everyone. I'm Garey Symington. I am the Customer Success Manager here in Qt's Minneapolis, Minnesota office, where it feels like winter is unfortunately just around the corner, but that's all right. I'm excited to be here talking to you all today. I handle a lot of the business side conversations with our current customers, and I'm really here to just serve as a partner for anything you hope to achieve with Qt and have cool conversations like we're having today about our premium reporting tools.
Super, thanks Martin and Garey. Just a quick rundown of our agenda today. So we're going to have a quick overview of the reporting tools in Qt, just sort of as a brief refresher so you kind of know what the tools are we're talking about later. In that 15-minute section, we'll be having sort of data in action using some small demos to show some of the applied use cases and scenarios in which you can use the reporting tools in Qt to solve your business needs. And then finally, like I mentioned, the dedicated Q&A section at the end. So with that said, we'll give the mic back to the presenters, and Garey, you can give us a look at the overview of reporting tools in Qt.
Thank you very much, Christian. Happy to do that. So at a glance here, what we'll be discussing today, first tool will be the Qt Monitor and Diagnostics page. A lot of you are probably familiar with these, especially the Monitor page being kind of the home base for you within the Go platform during your active events. These two taken together are a great way to get a powerful overview of real-time data that is affecting your ongoing queues. Next one we'll look at is the shared monitor link. That's actually a newer feature that we're excited to talk with you today about. It's a great way to send waiting room data to key stakeholders during your events, whether they're within or without the organization itself. The graphs tool is another great one that we'll be touching on today. Allows you to view historical data and customize it in a way that's best to be presented to whoever you need to review that with. Good way to learn from the past as you prep for upcoming events. And then the change log is another very helpful tool within the platform. Great way to stay organized and stay on top of the changes that are taking place within the platform by associating, description of the action with the date and time that it took place. And then the final tool will be exports, where you can extract and analyze data from the Go platform to your tool of choice to get deeper insights. Great way to delve deeper into data that would otherwise live solely in the Go platform. And so the first tool, as mentioned, is the Qt Monitor page, kind of the home base, as I said, for your active events. Those tiles there have a lot of great information about queue health, and it's a great way to understand how the waiting room is functioning. This is really your overview page of the queue health and the metrics associated with that. And then a lot of great information as well located in the diagnostics page, which Martin has some info to share there.
Yeah, exactly, Garey. So the diagnostic tab is a new tab that we have added, where we have collected some of the more insights on how the queue is behaving, and if there is any technical issues in the integration that can pop up here. If you have any questions to the details about the different metrics, because some of them are new, please use the Q&A section. But we also have a newly blog post on detailing on this that I can share the link on.
struggle with my mute button there for a second. Thank you, Martin. And on to graphs as the next tool. As I mentioned, the graphs are very customizable. It's a good way to get, a visual overview of a wide array of metrics that you can, add, subtract based on what you're really trying to drill down on. Quick note is that everybody does have access to graphs for the last 3 hours of historical data, but with the premium reporting feature added to your agreement, you're able to access all of that historical data, which is great for, forecasting, trying to identify trends, learning from the past, things that went well, things that maybe you can improve on, and having that data visually represented so you can continue to grow between, event to event.
Yeah, and looking at the data export, it's a feature that sometimes has been overlooked because it's maybe a little bit hidden. But here you can get details on each individual user in the queue that have actually seen and waited in the queue. So you cannot export for safety net, but you can get all the visual queue numbers exported in a CSV format, and you can use it either in Excel or in Tableau and any other tool that you prefer to analyze the data in. And looking at the change log, that's where you can see who did what when. It's a full overview of all the different waiting room alerts and the account changes that is happening in the system. And you can go back and search them here. And this also ties into the notification feature we have. So you can get notifications whenever certain events happening on the platform or on a certain waiting room.
Thank you, Martin. And that wraps up kind of the overview portion of the webinar. So now we'll get into a cool exercise surrounding data in action. We've identified some pretty common business questions that relate to some of our reporting tools and assigned some insights as well as some short demo videos on how to deal with those questions based on the tools that premium reporting gives you access to. So the first insight we'll examine here is capacity planning, something that I'm sure is near and dear to the hearts of many of the people on this call. Forecasting for big events, planning the capacity is a crucial part of the work that we all do running these big online events. So the question there would be, can I use historical waiting room data for capacity planning for upcoming sales or registrations? The answer there would be yes, using historical graphs and data exports. And we've got a video prepared here that demonstrates how to use those graphs in the platform. They live under statistics graphs on the left there. You click the favorite tab and you're able to see graphs that you have saved from past events, accessing that historical data. You can go back, select a separate event. As you can see, as you're hovering over those specific metrics, it'll give you more granular detail on the actual numbers associated with that time. It's highly customizable, which is a great part of the graphs. As you can see here, you can select the data set from which you want to draw data, the actual metric you want to be assigned, and then how you want that data to present in the graph itself. So, 3 levels of customization there on what you want to be including in your graphs. Gives you a greater depth of detail when you are trying to analyze queue performance from past events. As you can see here, doing the same for the webinar 2 event, customizing with the vertical bar graph once more. So a lot of flexibility within the graph feature, something I'd love to see our customers taking advantage of more because, history will repeat itself for better or worse. So if there's something, that went really well in your past event, it's great to be able to go back in the graphs and see, how that corresponds to the positive outcome. And if there is an area you'd like to improve on, these graphs are great to, start that analysis on where you can be improving your processes to really have the most successful events.
Great. Then let's take insights number 2 about malicious or fraudulent traffic. And we have a set of tools around that and in part of the bots and abuse protection. And the question is, of course, can I investigate the proportion of the traffic that is real versus the one that is malicious or fraudulent? And again, here the question is yes, you can do that with other graphs or request analysis. when you see the example here, it's shown around a specific use case about custom keys. It's a feature where you require the user to enter some kind of key that can be unique before they're allowed into the queue. But it's basically the same you can do if you use other form of challenges to the users before they're allowed into the queue, whether it's captcha or proof of work or something else. So if we try and look at the example here, there's a few key things to show. Again, it's under the graph section, and you can add them just like any other metric that we have in the system. And when we scroll down, you can see the last section here is actually all about fraud metrics that you can add. And again, you can customize them in any way you want. Another thing to notice here is that you have full history on the graph part, right? So these are, some demo data that we have entered, but they're 2 years old. So you can easily search back and, when was it we had this event last time? It was this time range, and you can search and drill into that part. So what we see here is how many times have we actually challenged somebody to type in this unique key that they need to enter. And then adding on top of that a metric showing how many times was that actually accepted. And by comparing these two, you can see in which part of the event that there's been more fraudulent traffic than in others, right? So by looking at this historically, at least you can see if there's certain time ranges you want to zoom into, and try and analyze that a bit more on how that is coming, right? And maybe correlate that with your own logs of traffic you have on your own system. Yeah. You're muted, Garey.
I think that one might be yours.
Sorry. Yeah, there was a reason why you were muted. That's perfect, right?
No problem.
Yeah. So the advanced data analysis, that's where you're asking yourself, how can I get more data or visuals into both historical and real-time data, and can I import that into my own dashboard? And you can do that through either the API that we'll come to at the last part of the demo, but also through the data export that we have looked a little bit at before. So if we try and look at that demo, or small video, I can talk a bit more about it. So again, from the graph part, you can export data. The data that you see in the graph, you can export either as an image or as raw data in CSV format or Excel format. So you can take that and embed that into your own reporting in some way. You can also go to the event data export, and as you saw here, you'll get a comma-separated file with different metrics for each individual queue number that have been into the queue. And the last part is the API, where we have options for controlling, of course, and configuring all the events, but you can also get real-time event statistics. All the same metrics that you see on the graph page, you can pull out from the API from a certain time range, or just pulling the latest. This is the API is an extra feature that's on the that you need to have. So now you need to unmute.
Now I can jump back in before I let Martin do all the work here. But yeah, so our final insight before we jump into some Q&A is regarding data visualization. And this is where our cool new feature, secure sharing, comes in. So the question is, can I share high-level and time series metrics with key stakeholders in a visually appealing and useful manner? So the answer is yes. Secure sharing lets you share the waiting room monitor with key stakeholders without the hassle of creating a new Go account. There's also a feature called user management that we offer, which allows you to have more than 2 users built in the platform. So, if there's a question, about who needs a Go account built, this shared monitor feature can provide some relief there. And it's very secure and easy to use, as you'll see in the following video, because you're able to revoke that access to whoever you share with at a moment's notice. So the risk is low, the use is very simple, and I think the benefits are pretty cool, as we'll see in this next video here. So the shared monitor lives on the monitor page of your events. So we'll navigate here to active events, over on the right to the monitor page. And you will see the familiar looking monitor page here, and one of those 5 buttons on the right. The middle one is for the shared monitor. As you can see, it generates a link that can be shared with stakeholders, inside your organization on a different team or outside the organization if they have a vested interest in the event. Share that link and they're able to input it into their browser and see exactly what you're seeing on the monitor page, diagnostics page included. So that's pretty awesome. Obviously, they can't make any changes or anything that would harm the event as it's ongoing. And as mentioned, it's very secure because you're able to revoke that access at any time. Simply click the secure sharing button and hit revoke, and your stakeholders who were viewing will now reach a 404 page and no longer have access to that monitor page. We do allow you to get a little more granular with who you are revoking access to. Under Manage Secure Sharing Links, you're able to select specific people who you've shared with and revoke their access in case there's a specific team or specific individual that needs a little bit more time to monitor, whereas others, it may be time to revoke that access. So following the theme of customizability with the ability to select who is and is not receiving that link, who can continue to use the link, and the setup and cleanup, so to speak, of engaging in use of the shared monitor is very easy. Just a couple buttons to click and a couple choices to make. Perfect. And at this time, I see that a couple questions have come into the Q&A chat down below. We would love to, answer any questions or thoughts that you may have after taking a look at some of these premium reporting tools.
Thank you, Garey. Maybe I can start with one here about the Zoom level, and maybe Christian, if I could share my screen, I could try and explain a bit on here. So I'm just sharing momentarily. So this is the graph we were looking at before, and a common question we get sometimes here, and you're not the first one asking it, is what is the Zoom level we have here in the corner? And Zoom level means that given the time span I'm looking at, to avoid having a million data points, we have aggregated the number. So if we hover here, you can see that this is for the hour 10 p.m. and the next data point is from the hour 11 p.m. And as I zoom in on my graph, the Zoom level changes, right? So now there's only 15 minutes between 2 data points on my graph. And I can continue and zoom in and get in the data in the minute interval. And as you notice, the graph here is changing slightly as the Zoom level is changing. And I have options to look at this in different ways, right? So it might be that I want to see for a longer time period, but I want to just figure out what was actually the maximum inflow, not the average, which is the default setting, but I can go and say, what was the maximum inflow? And now I can see that, okay, within this time range of 15 minutes, the maximum was 337. I would be able to go in and add the same metric one more time and show it the minimum. Or you can, instead of having that, you could say, I just want to see it per time interval and see, okay, within every 15 minutes, I have 7,000 users per minute, right? And as you zoom out and the zoom level changes, you will be able to answer questions like, what was my traffic going into the queue per hour? Or you can zoom further out and get it per day if you want. So the zoom level is pretty powerful combined with the period and the statistics that you're looking at. So that was just on that one.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Martin. I can jump in here to answer one as well. Looks like somebody asked, how can I use Qwit's data to validate the scope and timing of demand/traffic generated by our marketing activities? That's a great question, and really one of the great uses of the graphing function. You're able to tell, the volume of traffic that showed up, say your event starts at 11 a.m. You can see if there was a massive surge right at 11, or maybe if people kind of trickled in and came in, a little bit after. We have a pre-queue function that you can track, traffic trends in with as well. So how many people are showing up prior to the start time? How many people are showing up right at the start time? And with those customizable metrics within the graphing tool itself, you're really able to see, how those marketing efforts affected the volume and when that volume was coming through, and storing that historical data and going back and referencing it later. You can see how the effects, the efforts of your marketing team are, affecting those volumes of events by, tracking maybe the changes to processes by marketing, seeing how the outcome is reflected in the graph for that event. Maybe you tweak it a little bit more for the next event, see if that, affected traffic in a positive way for you. So, there's a fair amount of kind of trial and error that goes along with any event or any strategy. We're always evolving here as professionals, but, having access to that historical data and being able to toggle those metrics is a great way to get a sense of how your efforts are being received by your customers before, during, and after your events.
Another question is about the favorites. Maybe we didn't show that directly or jumped a bit quickly on it. So I don't know if it was a problem if I'm showing my screen. Are people able to see that? Christian, do you know if
I think most people were able to see it, but I wrote to Mikael that in the recording afterwards, which we'll send out to everyone who has signed up, you'll be able to see the full experience again. So apologies if there are some technical issues there, but at least it sounds like for most people it is working. Okay, great. So as I understood it, it was about this favorites part we have here, and how did these graphs pop up here. And the idea is that you can make a graph, you can adjust it as you want, and have that saved for a later time, right? So you can go in and call it tattoo or whatever, give it a name, and then you have it for later references, right? So it's easy to go back and find, oh, how was it that this part was looking exactly at that time compared to when I had the last sale. So it can be nice to have a snapshot of the time frame that was relevant from the previous event, and using that easily in the next analysis that we do. One other part that I might want to mention here is that you can actually combine metrics from different events in the same graph if you want to. Of course, the timing needs to have some correlation, otherwise you will have some data in one end and some data in the other end, but you can do it if you have like two events running with a day apart. You'll be able to see the inflow of, or the number of users in queue of both events in the same graph if you want to. You can just, when you add the metric, you can say select multiple and they will be added together. So if we take the
for instance, the queue numbers waiting on this one here, and add that as a metric. I would have, if events, if the two different events were at the same time or close in the within the time level that I'm zooming at, I would be able to see the two. Also, if you are in a situation where you're running multiple queues at the same time, so maybe you have a VIP queue and a standard queue, you can add the numbers and get a total inflow or compare them together. I can see there's a quick follow-up questions if we have time. Chris, I hope I don't overstep here.
Yep, I think you're okay.
Okay, cool. Can I compare last year's numbers with this year? That's actually not super easy. It's a super good point that it would be nice to do that, but you can only have one time range in a graph. So if I was going to do that, I would probably have to do two graphs and then just have them loaded at the same time and swap between them. But I think it's a super nice use case that we should bring back and see if we can come up with an idea on how to do that. So super thank you for that one.
And as a follow-up on that, it looks like it, you could also export it in Excel. Is that right, with the data export, Martin?
Exactly. So you can also go in here and say, download the data that I have exactly in this graph that I've made here and export that to Excel. And you can take the last year's event and export into Excel and then do the combination there if you want to. But it's definitely possible to do it like that. So if you're not able to do it directly inside Go, you can always export the data and do it in Excel, for instance.
Super.
That was the last one, or?
Yep, I think so. I think we have 1 or 2 minutes left, so we can wrap up here. Let me just share my screen again. And Garey, if you want to take this last one here.
Absolutely. Yeah, just wanted to say thank you to all of you who joined today. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about what we have to offer in the Go platform regarding reporting and the tools that you can take advantage of. As always, we really encourage you to reach out in the support channel that sends a message to our whole team of experts, myself included. So, whatever the question is, that's the best way to go. You can access it within the Go platform by clicking on the question mark in the top right, selecting support from the drop down, and then entering your question or comment into the field that populates. You can also just send an email directly to support@quit.com. And before I go, I wanted to mention that, we appreciate you all stopping by for the webinar. So we're going to make sure that premium reporting is enabled on everyone's account who showed up today. So if you haven't had access prior to this, we encourage you to, get your feet wet and go in there and sample it for the month of October. And, if you have some familiarity already, we would love to schedule a call, hear your thoughts, and, answer any questions you may have about getting a little bit deeper with this feature and really making it work for you. So on behalf of everyone here at Quit, I want to say thank you again and have a great rest of your week. I hope to talk with you soon.